Everybody, welcome to the September 2022 Reads Report. As you know, in the last couple of months, we've started to change the format around. And so we are going to start off going over the markets in play. And in this table, we've made a couple of changes to this table. It shows the current WAM relative strength of all the markets that are in play. It actually has a fundamental score based off the fundamental futures model. It has the quarterly market environment and the monthly market environment. The reason we're sharing all these with you is so that in one view, you can start to get a sense of how much these markets are actually in play. So if we look at the dollar index, which is in the top first row, the dollar index has a WAM relative strength of 100. So as you know, that means that the WAM relative strength is actually making a new high for the year as we speak. It has the fundamental score is 0, so there's nothing compelling one way or the other. But what we do want to look at is the quarterly and monthly market environments. And if we look at the quarterly market environment, the dollar index is in a confirmed breakout up. This means that it's in a strong quarterly breakout. And then if we go to the monthly is actually trend diverging up. This means that it is in a trend, but the trend is losing some of its momentum. Now, many of you know that we operate within a multiple time frame structure. This multiple time frame structure is an incredibly powerful frame from which to analyze the market. And in this table right here, this table alone gives you a sense of why we do what we do. Because when we look at the monthly market environment, we see an environment that is in an uptrend, but it's in a trend that is diverging. And what this means that this means that the monthly trend is starting to lose steam. Now, normally in an uptrend that is starting to lose steam, we start to put a plan in place, a plan of action that is designed to start to reduce the exposure in that position. Now, when we have a multiple time frame structure, one of the advantages is where most traders start to reduce their exposure based off the monthly losing steam. If we only look at the monthly, that would be the proper conclusion. But when we bring in the quarterly and we see that the quarterly is actually in a breakout up, what we see in this configuration is that when the monthly starts to lose steam, the quarterly will pick up the monthly and push it. And so a lot of you have an issue where you take profits prematurely and you kill the size of your winners. And you do this out of fear. You do this out of seeing a trend start to fall apart. But what you don't do is you do not look at the time frame above. And when the trend in a given time frame starts to lose momentum, starts to peter out, and you start taking money off the table, when the time frame above is still strong, what you're going to see is the monthly time frame will not revert. What you're left with is taking profits prematurely in an outstanding trend. This table starts to give you context to that. So the dollar index is breakout confirmed up on the quarterly. Now we start to work through the other names. Now, all these other names, of course, are dollar crosses. They are futures contracts tied to the dollar. So we have the Japanese yen, we have the euro, we have the pound, we have the New Zealand dollar, we have the Australian dollar, and we have the Canadian dollar. Well, they're all weak against the dollar. Because the dollar's strong, of course. But what we can see is we can see varying degrees of weakness. So when we go into the yen, for example, the yen has a relative strength of 1. Fundamentals are 0. But it's in breakout confirmed down on the quarterly. It has a strong quarterly move behind it. The monthly is in what's called transition non-confirmed down. This is basically an environment that is highly divergent as it's making new lows. So again, a time frame that's highly divergent. In one time frame, people will be taking profits. But when the time frame above is rocking and rolling, it will be a mistake. So we see this in the yen, we see this in the euro, we see this in the pound, and we see it in the New Zealand dollar. Now, what we were highlighting there, if we now go down to FX spot, well, look at the strongest crosses. What do they all have in common? They're all yen crosses. They're all yen crosses. So that's because the yen is the short side of the cross. And if we go and we look at, we don't have fundamental scores on cash FX, only in futures. But if we go and we look at the quarterly, we see a lot of the same thing. Transition confirmed, breakout confirmed, transition confirmed, breakout confirmed, breakout confirmed. This is something we're going to talk about a lot today because the quarterlies are very strong or very weak. The quarterlies are in strong trends, while lower time frames are trying to digest the move. Okay, so we see this across the board. Now, we go into what's weak. Well, look what's weak. What a lot of them have in common. Euro dollar, New Zealand dollar, sterling dollar, Aussie dollar. A lot of dollar exposure. Okay, now let's go down to metals. Metals are plurally weak. So we've seen dollar strength, plural dollar strength. We're seeing plural yen weakness. We're seeing plural euro weakness. We're seeing plural pound weakness. Now we go into metals. We're seeing plural metals weakness. Now, what is gold? What is silver? What is platinum? The currencies. They're not just a metal that's used to make something, they're actually their own form of a currency. And when we link them to the dollar, dollar strong, they're weak. Okay, so we see this carrying over. But I want you to notice the metals are not as weak as the currencies. Look at the difference in the quarterlies. Quarterlies have breakout non-confirmed, breakout non-confirmed, transition non-confirmed, transition non-confirmed. Look at the monthly. Trend diverging down, trend diverging down, trend diverging down, trend diverging down. What it's doing is it's painting a picture of a market that has all kinds of divergences and a lack of push. They're stronger than the paper currencies. They're weak, but they're stronger than the paper currencies, and they actually, in some cases, show some sign of potentially being able to bounce. Okay, then we move to fixed income. Fixed income, we've been talking about this, so I want you to notice what's not on the list. There's no 30-year, there's no ultra bound, because the weakness in the curve is up front. It's not in the back. This is one of the reasons why we've been talking about, we thought the curve would get even more inverted. Extreme weakness in the front of the curve, not so much in the back of the curve. Okay, now look at the short end of the curve. Look at the quarterlies. Transition confirmed down, transition confirmed down, transition confirmed down. There's still a lot of push here, at least the ceiling above. And we'll look at the Wamrella strength numbers similar to metals. That's plurally weak. And it is weak, but it's not nearly as weak as some of the currencies. Okay, now we go to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a Wamrella strength of 7, transition non-confirmed down, trend diverging down. Okay, so Bitcoin is sitting right on a cliff. It's right on a cliff. We'll see this later. Is it going to go off the cliff, or is it going to find its footing right on the edge of the cliff and be safe? We'll talk about that. Okay, go on. Our Wamrella strength report. You can see some massive changes in the Wamrella strength change 20. A number of things are much, much weaker than they were a month ago. And we see what's weak. We see the Aussie dollar, gold, euro, yen. We see what's strong, the dollar index.